I want to talk about femininity, what you need to know about it as a man, what you probably don't know, what you need to beware of, how to spot it, and I think just generally the importance to you as a man. Like what is femininity? What does that have to do with anything, right? And I'm going to use an example. I'm going to use this woman here. She's a weather reporter in Japan. Just as a side note, it's a very interesting TV program because it's the first, I think it's one of the very first in the world where they took the TV show and they kind of made it on the internet at the same time. So there's like a live stream of comments from the internet, and she'll respond to them. So she's like a very interesting study because not only is she very interesting, but also the program is interesting. You know, the whoever is the broadcaster, it's a very advanced thing. And there's a lot of things in Japan that are advanced and then they kind of get copied and then they don't get credit. But I thought this is interesting because if you watch your program, you'll see it's really kind of the perfect mix of TV and media and also new media, internet. And she plays it perfectly. This girl nails it. But anyway, so her name is Hiyama-san, Hiyama-sayachi, Hiyama-saya, and Hiyama's her last name. So the viewers gave her a nickname of Sayachi. I'm not going to use Sayachi because to me, whenever there's a girl in the media and the people watching her give her a nickname, to me, that's kind of simpy. You know what I mean? Like, I've boned girls in the media. Like, I have girlfriends that have been singers, stars, and stuff. In that case, I might use her nickname because she is that to me. Okay? So, if you want to think about being a simp, what is she to you, right? So, to me, she's Hiyama-san, right? And if I knew her in person, she would be Saya, her first name, Saya-chan. And if I was an old friend of hers, she'd probably be Sayachi, because that was probably her nickname in high school or something, right? So kind of an interesting side note, how not to be a simp by the way you talk, right? So this girl, Hiyama-san, very interesting, very interesting. So let me just kind of rattle off ideas and we'll get to the meat of it. So first thing is she's almost 30 years old. So in Japan, if you're over 26, that used to be called Christmas cake. Christmas cake is in Japan. They have this cake they serve at Christmas time. It's on sale the day after Christmas because nobody wants it because it's only for Christmas, right? Kind of like Valentine's chocolate, you know. And so a girl who was over 26 in Japan, when I got there, was called Christmas cake because no guys wanted her anymore. So, and that was a serious thing in Japan. Like, you were over 26. Girls over 26 in Japan were just kind of willing to put up with anything because they were desperate. And that's not a good thing. That's not a great thing for you as a foreigner. But it's interesting to see how things have changed because she's almost 30. I think she's like 28 or 29. And this girl's like an icon, you know, on TV. So it's very interesting how much I've been out of Japan for about 10 years. No, more than 10 years. What am I saying? Almost 20 years because I went to China for 10 years and then I've been out of China for almost 10 years. So almost 20 years. It was about 2004. I left. And I've been going back. I mean, I haven't been gone, but, you know, living there full time. So yeah, almost 20 years. So in 20 years, it's gone from 26 to now a 29-year-old is still totally attractive, right? Very interesting. That would never have happened before. Side note, right? For you guys, Japanese guys listening, right? Right? Tell me some more comments below, the Japanese guys. Like, what's been going on with this fucking thing? Things are changing, right? Guys are accepting things they didn't accept before. Japanese guys had some fucking tough rules back in the old days. And I like it. I like it. I like the Japanese way. The Japanese guys, they knew what was up and they called it like it was. And I think that's better for men and women, actually, to be honest, you know. And Japanese men were very honest back then, back in the day. But anyway, we do what we can do, what's available for us at the time. Which brings me to my next thing is, if you are in the West, so let's say you're in Canada, the UK, Netherlands, South Africa, United States, you are probably not even really, there's a very good chance that you don't even know what femininity is. And I know that's a bold statement, but I'm dead serious about that. And part of this episode is I want to show you something that will kind of melt your heart, and in a good way. I think that exposure to femininity, like real femininity, has had a huge effect on my life and my outlook on life. I think a lot of the reason why guys are so hard today is because they're never exposed to femininity. Now, I don't want to give you the impression that femininity is something that is natural. Femininity is a combination of natural and unnatural. So it's a learned and an inbred behavior, or you're born with it, right? Females tend towards a pattern of being ready to be raised into being feminine. You know, they have the basic tools, if that makes sense. But a woman raised by wolves is not going to be feminine. So femininity is a learned behavior. And just as masculinity is too. As a man, you know, men traditionally didn't work very hard. And you were going to be shocked, you know, like, what are you talking about? They didn't. Men basically would just, hunters and gatherers, would operate much like a lion. They would take down an animal, they would kill it, eat it, share it with a bunch of people, a bunch of other fucking animals, and then they would go to sleep. They had no way of storing it. They had no way of holding it. Men just basically lived day to day, right? That's a traditional man, actually. The man who thinks of the future, plans, collects, saves, is a provider in a family. That is a learned construct, as is femininity. And femininity is much more interesting and complex than you would think. So if there are any women listening, I think you'll really enjoy this episode. The loss of femininity in the West is a tragedy. It's such a tragedy. And it really is. It's a terrible, terrible thing. Just for a guys, it's hopeless enough that it's worth going abroad. And I'm going to go into why it's hopeless and also why it's worth going abroad, because how meaningful it is to a man. And you're going to think, well, how can you say that? Like, this is a channel, you know, talk about a lot of MGTOW stuff. What is femininity? What does that have to do with me? Who cares? Who cares? Well, just have a listen to this and just, I'm interested to hear your comments at the end. Because I get you. Logic, yep, totally. Don't need it to survive, right? Right? Don't need it. It's not something you need. It's not, you can live without it, right? There's many, many things you can live without, but it doesn't mean that exposure to them does not make your life a million times better. You know, like art. You don't need art. You don't need good design. You know what I mean? You don't need a lot of things. But those things can be the things in life that really bring a lot of pleasure to life. And while there's danger in femininity, there's danger. I would say the most dangerous thing to a man is a woman, actually. But that doesn't mean that you don't want a woman at all, or don't want to understand femininity or be around anything feminine, because cars are very dangerous. I like cars. I like to drive cars, right? Life is dangerous. We're all going to die. We're all going to die. So just because something, sports are dangerous. I like to swim, do free diving. It's dangerous. There's a lot of things in life that I really enjoy that are actually dangerous, right? And women, females in general are very dangerous to a man, because they can essentially lead you to your death, just to put it bluntly. At the same time as they can be a very interesting distraction in life, right? I think you know what I'm saying. If you really think about it, you know what I'm saying, right? So here we have a woman, and I don't want to put her on a pedestal. In fact, in Japan, I would say she's quite plain. This woman is not extremely beautiful in Japan. She has nice hair, for sure. She's not overweight. Let's see, what else? She has nice teeth. I'd say she has, a little bit above average pretty eyes, that kind of thing. She has no obvious flaws, you know what I mean? And she's just a normal, what I would say is she is, and part of the reason why she's so popular is because she's kind of like the girl next door. She really is. She's like the girl next door. So that's the way you want to think about her. And you'll understand more who she is. Like, if you want to seduce a girl like this, you don't want to think of her as Sayachi, the famous weather girl, the this, the that. You just think of her as a spunky girl who can make fun of herself, clumsy, but she has a good attitude about it, not self-conscious, girl next door. And that's what she is. Yeah, I can tell you right now, just looking at her, if you wanted to bone that chick, that's the best mindset. Is you want to have fun with her, but you also want to kind of poke fun at her. And she pokes fun at herself. So anyway, I don't want to build her up too much. Partly because I think a lot of guys misunderstand that. And you can see that in simps online and stuff, right? So let's go back down to real life. And let's look at what she has to talk about here and kind of make some comments. So this first clip is interesting because she's telling you no, which I think a lot of guys don't understand. That can be feminine too. Feminine girls have to tell you no sometimes. Okay? That's part of their job. So actually it is very feminine, because a girl who never says no, she becomes the town bicycle. She doesn't protect her heart. She doesn't protect her value. A lot of guys misunderstand. I see on like Fresh and Fit podcast, a lot of comments about femininity. And I think there's a basic misunderstanding of femininity on that channel. And also, I think very interesting is on another channel I like, Just Pearly Things. I hope Pearly watches this one, because I think Pearly also, because she's in the West, don't get me wrong, Pearly is really kind-hearted and she's trying to get to the heart of things. And that's why I think she would listen to this. But just being in the West, femininity is lost so long ago that there is almost not an understanding of it anymore. Being female does not give you any kind of special insight into femininity. Femininity, like I said, is a construct. it's a combination of course, a genetic disposition and a construct. But when you see femininity bloom, okay, in females, and I see this more in Japan than anywhere else, but I'm sure like Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, I heard there's a lot of feminine girls there. So there's other places. It's not connected to being Asian. I heard that also in Estonia, you have like girls who look Swedish, who tend to be much more feminine due to the culture, not due to some genetic thing, like due to the culture. So these cultures, they still exist around the world. That's part of the reason why you want to travel, is you want to be exposed as a man to this, because it's a very powerful thing, man. And I'm going to talk about how it affects me as a, personally. So let's listen to her talk a little bit. Okay.
では皆さん服装いじりはやめてくださいね。本当に。
Okay, so what she's saying there is, don't make fun of my clothes, right? And apparently, I don't know if it's men or women. I'm kind of guessing women, but apparently somebody is making fun of her clothes, because you can write comments, right? And you can feel, okay, because I know Japanese very well, is that whatever was said was not nice. So she's trying to say, here's what she's doing. In a nice way, in a girlish way, in a feminine way, she's trying to say, like, I'm hurt, and don't do that. Like, don't do that. So in America, when a girl tells you, don't do that, it's very different here, because femininity it doesn't exist anymore. So you'll get almost like threats, a very crude, threatening, like burn the bridges. A feminine person is able to correct you without ruining your feelings. There's a way, because women have traditionally like raised all the children and kept the family together, right? That was the woman's job. So part of that skill is the ability to say difficult things without causing a lot of damage on the outside. It's an interesting thing, whereas men will tend to not care and say, nope, that's wrong. I don't like that. But women, they will do it in another way, in a more subtle, really in a more sophisticated way. But I want to read through the tea leaves, because I don't want to give you the idea that femininity is only the positive. It's only innocence. And that's what you see when you see these other podcasts. They're saying that basically femininity is submission. I've heard this so many times on Fresh and Fit. It's like, I want a girl who's going to submit. Is she going to submit? Okay, yeah. This is one small part of feminine behavior, but I'm going to show you there's basically 100 there's like 100 million different details that make a woman feminine. I don't want a crude Western woman who is going to submit to me. I don't want to be anybody's boss. I don't want to lord over her, right? What I really like is a woman who is naturally feminine and who likes me. Very, very simple. But let's talk about the complexity of femininity. I just want to quickly say a few things here. Just before we start here, one thing is she doesn't have much makeup on. And the makeup she does have on, she does have makeup. Japanese girls are very good at putting on makeup. It looks very natural, which I like. She doesn't have any fake boobs. She doesn't have any, what are they called? The lips that are all blown up. She doesn't have a lot of things this girl doesn't have a big butt. You'll see when she's standing up. A lot of things that women think that is attractive. Now, this girl is so attractive. Okay. This is the thing girls need to know. This girl is like hot. Okay. Like a lot of guys, they're stoked on this chick, right? But it's really funny, right? What is it about her? What is it about her? So let's get into some more. Look at the way her hair curls as it touches her shoulder. See how it just kind of softly comes down and then just turns? This is a kind of these little details. Japanese girls are so many details. And then the earrings, how they hang down kind of cute off her ears. She's got like big ears. You can see on her left ear how big it is, So you can make fun of her ears if you were like her boyfriend, like in a fun way. Like call her Dumbo-chan or something. And she'll be like, what are you talking about? And you say, but it's cute. You can just totally tease her about her ears. This girl could take it. She would love it. Like, as long as you have a good heart and good intentions, teasing is a flirt, okay? So how you tease is different. If you're bullying somebody or making, something like that, that's a totally different thing than teasing. Girls love when you tease them a little bit, once in a while. But they don't like when you're mean and when you bully them and when you're a fucking crude and what they would say, an asshole. That type of asshole they don't like. They like a quote-unquote bad boy, but guys get confused. Just teasing her is kind of a bad boy because most guys aren't willing to tease because they're so afraid of her not liking them, right? Anyway, back onto this. So look at her necklace. See how thin that is? It's a very thin gold chain, very, very soft and delicate. Then look at her, whatever's on there, the pearl or whatever. It's just nice. It fits in with her colors. Everything's been thought about on her, which is very feminine too. The color of her blouse, her hair color, her skin color, her necklace and earrings. Japanese girls, they're very good at this kind of stuff. It's just kind of like, you'd be amazed how much time Japanese girls put into looking like this. And also, how much as a man you'll enjoy it. Like, when you come here and you see the girls, they just don't know how to dress in America. Like, the women in America just dress like total clowns. I mean, they look like clowns because they're so overweight and they're obese. But just the way they dress and groom themselves here is so crude. And what you'll get in America, you'll tend to get girls who, because they don't know how to dress, they can't take the time or don't have the knowledge of how to be feminine. They just go for breast job, right? They're going to go for something crude that will get your attention. Kind of like you might have a building. You can either have a very nice design of a building, okay, like a beautiful, like really like a Frank Lloyd Wright design of a house, which is very difficult to do. Or you could have like a house that's like a track home, but you could put something really flashy on the front, like marble entryway that doesn't match the house at all. It's just kind of bolted on there, but it's all you see when you walk in and you don't really look at the whole building. And as a whole, it's kind of easier just to get people's attention and to kind of trick people. And that's what American girls do now. It's the level we're at now, is that they just, if they want a man, they just bolt on the marble, basically. Whereas the Japanese girl or the feminine being is a complete package. It takes a lot of time, not just to learn how to do it, but each day to maintain, to be feminine. There is a period it takes. Like, they need to think, how do I look today? what matches this today, you know. And Japanese girls are willing to put in this time. Foreign girls, they just don't. They just don't. And when you first get there, you won't appreciate this because this is very subtle. As a man, I didn't even understand this. It took me many years to really understand how complex dressing a Japanese girl was. Like how many things they thought about. It's very, very interesting, actually. They're using their intelligence. They're really, what do you call it? Like running the engine. The engine of their mind to get that look every day. And I think there's something really neat about that. I appreciate that now. I didn't appreciate that before when I was younger. I couldn't appreciate it, but now I really appreciate it. Much like I appreciate when I walk by someone's house and they have a beautiful garden and you can see that it's perfectly kept, I used to not notice that. Now I look at it, I'm like, oh, wow. That homeowner, they really used their intelligence and their focus. They cared, they cared. And Japanese girls, what I like about them is they care. They really, really care. It's not just for men. Japanese women will take the time to look feminine because they like it. And I think that's the most feminine thing. I don't think a Western woman, she tries to turn it on and off. She tries to basically be a slob, let's say for like 30 years of her life. And then suddenly she tries to become feminine when she wants to get married. And of course, she's not very good at it because she doesn't have the practice, right? And she doesn't have the clothes. Her body's not ready. All the movements, all the complex movements, the way she smiles, the way that she holds her head, the way everything in her life is not geared towards letting that feminine nature bloom within herself, right? And so she's going to tend to go for the crude things, like show a lot of cleavage, right? But I think as a man, I think it's important. I can't be fooled as a man because I've been with so many women that I don't fall for it. I don't fucking fall for it. I really look closely at women and I listen closely. And I appreciate true femininity. I really do. I appreciate it. And a girl who's, let's say she's over the hill, but she's trying to, like, quote unquote, get a man. I appreciate, I think that's fine that she's doing that. I'm not saying I don't, what do you call it? I don't look down on it. It's just that I see what she's doing. It's kind of like this. What would you say? If somebody is trying to get a job and they're wearing a suit, acting very fake. It's fine. They're trying to get a job. But what I really like is somebody who loves their craft, and they live their craft. Like I look at Sean, the way he is with science, and like, that is his life outside of work. And that's why he's doing so well, is because that's him. He isn't just putting it on for the company. This is his being, his nature. And he's perfected it. He's taken the time to really take his basic innate skills. Like you might have an innate ear for music, but then you spend 12 years studying music, studying instruments, working with great artists. And then you finally become where it becomes you. And you are a consummate musician who can jump into any band, any situation, and you feel at home. It's because it's part of you, right? Femininity is like that. It really is. And I'm just going to say right here, the reason why I don't think that it's worth staying in Western countries for men is because I believe, now I could be wrong, but from what I've seen, people often ask me, what did you learn when you came here into America? And I learned a lot of things. I had a great time. I've been here for 3 years and I'm leaving now. It was going to be almost 3 years. I came here for the court case for my daughter, to fight for my daughter, and society kidnapped her from me, basically. And it was a terrible tragedy that a wrong that can never be righted. And something I'll never forgive Western society for, to be honest. And I shouldn't. As a father, I should never forgive that. It's not something you can forgive. But in this time, which the only thing that could have brought me to the West is my daughter. Like nothing else would make me come here. My love for my daughter was the only thing. It was a powerful, like a black hole or a magnet that there was more powerful than all the forces in the universe. There was no question what I was going to do. Come here and fight. But other than that, there was no reason to come here. There really wasn't, because I was very happy in Asia, and I'm very happy wherever I go. But I think my daughter has led me to a lot of new discoveries that have improved my life a lot. I'll get into that in an episode, like all the things that, essentially the way I look at it is, I was living overseas permanently. Okay, 30 years. I was permanent. My daughter was the thing that pulled me into another environment that I would have never gone to. But since I was there and I had all this kind of experience living abroad, since I've been here, I've been able to put together a lot of pieces that I think are very valuable. And that's what I'm trying to share on this episode too, is like the things I've learned, right? And one of the things I've learned is that I believe is that femininity is something that okay, let's separate two things. There's the innate part of being a feminine woman is the genes and the tendencies, okay? But just like a dog who is raised as a dog fighter or in the wild, or a dog who doesn't have food and is not safe. You know, like you see these dog rescue videos. I don't know if you guys watch these, but I like animals, so I'll be watching these things. And the way they act, they'll like attack people that are trying to help them. They just don't understand who's helping them, who's not, because they've been hurt so much. The dogs are just like, anybody who's coming to me is trying to fuck me over. Like they have this like total black pill. And it takes a long time for the dog to learn that not everybody's trying to hurt them, right? Is that your environment is actually more important than your innate things in the outcome. And so looking at it, femininity is one of those things. It's a luxury, because when we're fighting for food and fighting for survival before modern medicine and modern society, women couldn't afford to be feminine. But now with all the hospitals and money and everything, women can afford to let their femininity bloom. It's kind of in that way, a lot of guys say life is worse than before. This might be the most feminine time in history, because not in the West, but globally, because femininity does not bloom in wartime. It just doesn't. And most of human history is wartime. That's interesting. I never thought about that before, but I bet that's true. I bet there's more femininity now, globally, than there ever has been. Because women can, part of the feminine being is that the feminine can only bloom if they feel taken care of. Now, a lot of guys will say that's a man. It's actually much more than that. It is the environment. So it's their parents, it's their city, it's the time they live in, it's their neighborhood, it's their family. Because like you can take a very feminine girl, or you can take a very healthy dog. All it takes is one very, very abusive person to derail that whole thing. Like if the dog is beaten and mistreated by one person, that dog will not be able to respond to all the other good people around it, because that creates such injury to the dog. And you can see this. And this happens too when people let other people take care of their dogs. You know, one of my friends, they gave their dog to somebody else for like 2 months when they went on vacation or a business trip. I can't remember. It was a business trip. And when they came back, whenever they walked towards the dog would cower on the ground. And it was obvious that we did the research into it. And it wasn't the person who was taking care of the dog, because they asked somebody to take care of the dog. That person was good. It was a family member of theirs who abused the dog. But nevertheless, that dog was never the same. And never was that same sweet dog ever. When I would walk up to it, it would cower. And then, I would pet it softly and slowly. And slowly it would start to show signs of being the old dog it used to be. But it was never the same. The dog was shattered. Femininity is like that. It's something that can be shattered. That's why I always talk about, even no matter what a woman does to you, let's say on the way out of a relationship, you don't want to shatter her femininity. Like, and I mean that. Like, women can do really evil things to you. But I just personally don't think you ever have the right, and you should, you're going to regret it, if you cross that line where you insult her in a way that she can't ever recover from. And I've seen women this is a very real phenomenon. Part of a man's nature is to protect women. And when I say women can do terrible things, I mean, I'm serious. Like, they can really fuck you over. But you have to separate. I guess what you have to separate is bad behavior from destroying the person's soul. Don't destroy their soul. No matter what the dog does, no matter what the girlfriend does, there's a line. Just know that. That's all you got to know. As a man, everybody listening to this episode is intelligent enough to figure that one out over time. So, femininity is complex. How it develops, the way it manifests itself in the various things like the earrings and all the way she holds her mouth and eyes and the way she does her hair straight. She's got like black hair, but she's got it dyed a little bit brown. In Japan, that's a sign of like a good girl. She's not, in the old days, if she dyed her hair brown, she was like a radical. But now 30 years later, a little bit brown is a sign of what she's signaling there is a little bit of flexibility. Her hair is not completely black, right? In the old days, that would have been a sign of rebellion and stuff, but things change. Now that's like a good girl right there. That's a sign is, hey, I'm a good girl, trying to be a good girl. And I'd say it's true. It's 100% true in this case. Okay, so let's get to how she says no. It's quite interesting. Okay, so she laughs, but she's not really laughing. Somebody said something mean about her clothes.
服装いじりは何度言ってもダメって言ってる。
Don't. So she's saying, I know she's saying like you shouldn't like make fun of clothes, and like I said it many times, like don't make fun of clothes. And what she's really saying is somebody crossed the line in a comment. Okay, I don't know what the comment was, but somebody crossed some fucking line here. And this Japanese girl, in a very Japanese, very feminine way, is trying to communicate through the thick skulls of everybody watching. Like, don't do that. But without being mean. Okay, so let's see how she finally... This is a good lesson for you if you ever deal with a Japanese girl.
じゃないですか。
She kind of looks at you like... Just a second ago, she was looking at you like, please...
服装いじりは許してくださいね。
Says it again, okay? Like, please stop, don't do that. But again, she's smiling and she's doing it subtly.
ダメですよ。
Okay, now here is the fucking hammer right here. Dame desu yo. Okay, dame desu yo. And then she repeats, dame. Now, you know, girls will say like no means no. In Japan, that is a very complex topic because Japanese girls will always have to say dame in the beginning. Okay, watch any porn movie, you'll understand. There will be dame, 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 dame. Oh. And so there is a flirting that comes with seduction. And in order to read that subtle process, you need to be aware, right? So I'm going to give you a warning right here. Is like when a Japanese girl says, you know, like kind of like laughing, like I don't like when that person does that, and she shouldn't do that, you know, and then she says, dame desu yo, dame, and then she puts her fingers up in that cross sign. That right there, that's when I say she really means it. Okay? So this is a very feminine woman who is telling you. See, the thing is, a lot of people think, a lot of Western women, because they're not raised in a feminine culture, they don't know what femininity is. And so they think that the only way to communicate to a man is to basically have no class. Like you have to be very blunt, very crass, very loud, and very direct, and you have to use very non-feminine tonality in order to communicate. No, but that's not true. That is not true at all, actually. There are many subtle things that a feminine woman will do. Now, of course, if you don't listen in Japanese society, and I would say, go so far as to say in the feminine aura, let's call it, she's going to have the right to say, dame deo, yamete kudasai. She's going to say that next, but she won't say this on TV. Yamete kudasai is please stop. So this could be anything, whether you're eating something the wrong way or you're in a store and you're doing something that's not acceptable. You might not understand what you're doing, but there's a series of things. The way that you seduce a feminine woman, the way that you seduce women that you want to seduce, I don't want to seduce women that aren't feminine, but is by listening and having all of your, let's call them spidey senses alert, you know? So she's already given you 10 warnings, right? She's given you 10. She hasn't gone to the yamete kudasai, but just dame desu yo, right? So I wanted to show you that because I think that's interesting how feminine women have more power than masculine women. Like, I want to listen to her. I want to hear her, to be honest. Because the more you are attracted to somebody, the more you're willing to listen. See? So it's the carrot and the stick. Western women, it's just all stick, right? So you might obey just because they might threaten you with a gun, they might threaten you with a boyfriend, they might call the police, they might hit you with a baseball bat or a frying pan, they might cheat on you in front of your face, they might humiliate you in public and do a lot of things that would basically burn down the house. You know, the nuclear bomb of any relationship. But it doesn't make you want to be around her. This type of woman, and I would say my type of man, like a man who can read women, it works well together because they're giving me messages. I'm hearing the messages. And I'm understanding what level of no she's talking about here. You know, if you're teasing her, she might say, yamete kudasai, yamete. Or, you know, but she's just joking because you can tell it in her tone, right? But when she says, dame desu yo, dame, and then she does this on TV, she's saying, no more of this, okay? Basically what she's saying here, in a feminine way, is if you fucking keep doing this, I'm going to block your ass. But she won't. So you can't leave any more fucking comments. And anybody like you. But she's not going to say it, right? And as a man, I appreciate that. I really do. I love that. I love femininity. And I'm going to show you guys a poem I wrote. I'll give you a background, I was in my house, and it was a beautiful day. I remember it was a Sunday, I think. Saturday or Sunday. And it was a very sunny day. And I was in my house in Nakano. And we were in the tatami room. And I had this girl. Her name was Yukari. She was so beautiful. This girl was so beautiful. I mean, oh my God, this girl was beautiful. I mean, I'm serious. Like, there's a type of beauty that's so beautiful that it just burns you like to the ground beauty. This girl was beautiful every day, all day, in the morning, in the night, when she was sick, when she was angry. And I don't say that out of liking her. Although I liked her a lot, you know, I had other girlfriends, but I did like her. But her beauty, I mean, like, she was like head and shoulders. This girl could have easily been a movie star. Easily. She was way hotter than most movie stars. Way more beautiful. Her skin was fucking out of control. Her hair was, I always say it, but her hair was better than a fucking TV commercial for shampoo. When she would swing her head, it would swing around. And she had long hair almost down to her butt. And it was just like, it would flow each strand. I mean, if you've ever seen beautiful thick hair that's silky and youthful and essentially the best of the best DNA, that was what she had. She had tiny little feminine shoulders. She had a big, beautiful smile, much prettier than she would make Hiyama-san look like a cardboard box in comparison. Okay, so Yukari was in my room, and we had just had sex, and I can't remember how it was, but it must have been good because it was a good day. It was a good day, and so we finished, and we opened up the windows, you know, and because I lived in this little place, you know, so as soon as we were done, we opened up the windows, and it was a warm day, and she put on what's her name? Takeuchi Maria album called Impressions, which is a great album. I like Takeuchi Maria. And she really wanted to marry me, so she was playing this song, Let's Get Married. Which I kind of like the song, actually, because I've heard it so many times. And I like Takeuchi Maria anyway. And anything she sang was so feminine. It was so feminine. And so this song was on, and she was dancing around my room. Literally, she was cleaning my room. Okay, so imagine the scene. It's a beautiful day. Sun's just pouring in the window. It's a Tommy room, like Japanese, straw mats, looking outside to all these Japanese houses. And there's this girl who's like as pretty as any model that you would see on a billboard. Okay, so as pretty, same beauty. And in her youth, she's still young. She's dancing, and this music is playing. This beautiful wafting. Takeuchi Maria is playing. She brought the album, and so it's playing. It's like wafting in the air, and she's singing it, and she's singing like "Let's Get Married," and she's not looking at me. She's not putting any pressure on me. She was, when a girl is totally within her femininity, she wasn't really doing it for me. She was just doing it for herself. Like she was absolutely, we must have had some really good sex. And she had flown up to see me. It took her like 6 hours of flight to get to my house. And she's floating around my room and she's singing this song. She's dusting. She's got this dust, what do you call it? Broom thing. This little Japanese dust broom with feathers. And she's dusting things and she's singing this song and she's dancing. So she's spinning around and to the music. And it was like so beautiful. I could not believe it. And all of a sudden, watching her was the first time I realized what femininity was, I think. This is about 1993. I never really knew what femininity was. I had never been bowled over by femininity until that moment. And in that moment, I felt like, I don't know if you've ever had this, I felt like my entire insides were just gutted. I mean, her femininity just absolutely bowled me over. I mean, any woman listening, I think you would be proud just to know how powerful you are as a woman. And this is what women don't get here, is this power is the most powerful thing on earth. I'm serious about that. This causes men to go insane. It causes a man to work his entire life and be happy about it. Like literally be happy about it. Because when he's felt this feeling for a woman, it is an absolute joy. I mean, I gotta tell you, it is a fucking joy. And I tried to put this feeling into a poem. So I wrote this poem. As your lips mouthed the words, and the words were to the song, your femininity burned through me like lava through a forest. And I imagined Pompeii in Italy, when the volcano went, erupted, and the ash just burned through forests. It wasn't like a fire. A fire takes time, and it's like slowly burning, and then it gets hotter and hotter. When the lava just comes through the forest, the trees explode and they just disappear. The heat is so much in the forest. The leaves are just eviscerated. They evaporate. And all the strength I had as a man and my almost ability to stand up. I can't remember if I sat down, but I was just like, I felt it for the first time, the beauty of the feminine being. And I can't really explain it, but it was amazing. It was amazing. I think every man listening, I hope you feel this at some point in your life. I really do. I feel very sad for men. I'm talking about even if you're black pilled, it doesn't matter. You need to feel this to have experienced life before you pass. This is one of the great joys for a man. Even though, don't get me wrong, it is also the most dangerous fucking thing that can ever happen to you. Anything that's powerful is dangerous. Now, luckily, I had other girlfriends, and I was able to somehow, somehow, I was able to fucking survive this onslaught of femininity from her and from many other beautiful feminine women. Because because I'm like that song, Brandy, by Looking Glass. You know, I'm the sailor. Like I am the sailor. And girls know that about me. Any girls listening, like, that is me. I will roll through your life, but you won't be able to keep me. You know, it's just the way I am. It's just, I am naturally that guy. So, but in the same way that I appreciate the femininity, women appreciate my way of being. I'm not saying it's the only way of being. Okay, there are many good men who find a good woman like this, and they do settle down. And life is pretty good if you have the right woman. It can be. That's the problem with this whole dichotomy right now and everything on the channels, is that, you know, kind of like there's no hope anywhere. The reason why everyone's so angry is because they know it could be. You know what I mean? It could be. It's like a neighborhood that has a lot of crime. They're like, yeah, but it's good if there's no crime, right? And they're like, yeah, but there's crime everywhere, so fuck that. That's kind of that guy's attitude. But I want you to know that the ultimate in life is a neighborhood where neighbors help each other, where neighbors look out for each other, where people don't take things they don't own, you know. And if you find that type of neighborhood, you don't want to be a fool, but there are different kinds of neighborhoods and places in the world. So I recommend living in that neighborhood. You know what I mean? There's a difference, okay? There's a difference between living in Japan and living in Chicago. Okay? There's a big fucking difference, okay? You can talk any fucking bullshit that you want, that everything's the same, but it ain't the fucking same. It ain't the same. A nice, safe neighborhood with good neighbors is fucking awesome. It's not the answer to life. Neither is femininity. That's the complexity. But women have a place in their life for a man like me that walks away. But I love women. I love femininity. That's part of the reason why I can't stand what's going on here. Because I look at it, I'm like, this is so sad. Women are not even knowing who they are. Like a dog who has been neglected. You know, go watch those videos of dogs that have been neglected and homeless. There's like channels where they try to approach the dog and the dog just keeps attacking them. And it's like so difficult for them to finally get the dog to eat. But then the dog is never really normal because the dog has not learned at a young enough age, which brings me to my next topic. Okay, so my next topic is, or I would say aspect of this topic is, femininity is something that you need to learn very young. I believe that, like language, okay, so I'll speed this up because there's so much to say. So people that are raised by wolves, okay, let's just say by wolves, without humans, without speaking a language, if they come into contact with humans and human language at some point, they never learn to really speak. They never really get speaking languages well. They can communicate in a crude way, but they're never fluent in their quote unquote native language. I guess their native language is wolf, right? But not in a English or in a human language, right? Because they were too old. They were too old. And I'll give you an example. Someone very close to me had a daughter, and she was 4 years old. And she moved to Japan. And then she had another daughter born in Japan. And I was very close to them. And what was amazing to me was the daughter that was born in Japan. She lived there till she was about 7, I think, right? The one that was born in Japan was so different And we're only talking 4 years. And 4 fucking years old. Modern women in the West think they can become feminine when they're 30. Okay, now listen to this example. It is really hopeless. I really want you to know this, because if you don't know this, then society is kind of doomed in the West. You have to know how hopeless it is. So the one that was born in Japan and the one that came at 4 were never the same. The one that was 4, she was young enough to learn Japanese. She was young enough to enjoy Tokyo, have a lot of friends. But there was a big difference. And one thing I could see was in the subtle things. The one that was born in Japan, I remember there was a picture taken of them wearing kimonos for school, because they went to international school. They had to wear kimonos for some kind of special day. And the one that came at 4 was standing in her kimono like a Western girl, essentially masculine. Japanese femininity has been perfected. Japanese femininity is essentially Chinese femininity. So imagine 5,000 years of history. Of feminine history. Okay, let's put it that way. Western stuff it doesn't have the depth. It doesn't have the depth to even reach femininity, I don't think. Western culture. There's a limit there. I'm not saying there's no femininity, but even if you're born in a femininity Western culture, it's not the same as a Chinese Western culture. Because everything comes from China. Mongolia, let's say Mongolia. The center of Asia, right? Let's just say Mongolia. And then they spread out from Mongolia to Japan, right? And these cultures developed over thousands of years differently, but they came from the same seed, okay? And the same in Europe, right? And same in any culture, any plant culture or human culture. There'll be a tribe, and then there'll be growing, and then there'll be, you know what I mean, how it works, right? So in that culture, there's more depth to things, right? And when you're born if you're born in Asia and you are raised, okay, so essentially what I'm trying to say is this, is that women learn femininity by watching their mothers. When they are so young, they can't think yet. They can't talk yet. They are learning machines. Infants are learning at a rate that is astounding. Okay? It's all subconscious, but they're learning everything about the world. And it is an amazing process. Like I said, I love child development. I studied child development after I had a daughter. And I just was very interested. It was just so interesting. One of the most interesting topics. I really do think that. And I'm so glad that my daughter motivated me to learn something I would have never learned. And it taught me a lot about myself. It's amazing the things that my daughter, even though I've never been allowed to meet her, my daughter has improved my life in so many ways. Like one of them is that I got very interested in learning about child development. And so why is it hopeless for someone like Pearly, who I love? I love Pearly. I mean, I would love to be on your show, and I really enjoy your show, actually. But why it's so hopeless at this age is because if a girl who's 4 years old moves to Japan and never gets it, that picture in the kimono was so classic. Because the other one, she stood with her feet like in this kind of like pigeon-toed look, her shoulders kind of together to the side, and this like look in her face, this total Japanese pose. It was almost like from an old Japanese drama or novel. And it was totally natural because I knew these girls. She didn't read any novels. It was something subconscious. She knew what to do. And the other one, who thought she was posing the right way, was absolutely not. And no one said anything. But I think the Japanese and people like me were blown away to watch the difference. We were like, holy shit, that's amazing. What's amazing was that a white girl, and she was blonde and cute, could totally integrate the subconscious feminine behaviors of a Japanese girl. It was amazing because it's so difficult to learn. But you realize it had nothing to do with race. It has to do with an infant, being raised in that environment, right? It has nothing to do with your hair color or how your eyes are, or your eye color, nothing, or your genes, It's just being raised in that environment. She was raised from 1 day old, okay, in that Japanese environment. And I just think that's fascinating. And I think, I still know these girls today, and there's still a big difference. So I think that it never changed. The other one is always partly Japanese. Now, she forgot her Japanese. So you'd think she forgot everything. But if you look at the way she stands, if you look at the way she looks, if you like all the subtleties of this Hiyama-san, the way she holds her mouth, the way she holds her face. Hiyama-san in this picture, she's always kind of holding back. She's never like screaming at you, right? She's always kind of like holding her teeth a little bit tight together. Let's watch some more of this stuff, and you can see some of the details because this is getting too long.
私も自宅で飲むことも好きなんですけれども。
So this is classic female here. Japanese or female, they just talk about whatever they talk about. And they'll say like, I like to drink coffee at home. And as a man, you can take it two ways. You can say, that's totally fucking stupid. But if you understand females, you'll understand they're kind of, it's the way women are. Like feminine women are. They kind of talk to themselves. They're like just kind of airy. They're just kind of like ethereal. They just talk to themselves. They talk to the furniture. They talk to the fish they're cooking. They don't have this kind of, you can ruin this if you judge a woman. But I recommend letting feminine women be. Let them just observe and feel your inner feelings as a man. And you'll find after a while, first you'll be like, wait, what is this? And then after a while you'll be like, I kind of like that. That's not me, right? That's very different than me. As a man, I don't do that. I don't talk like this, you know what I mean? But there's something very nice about it, very soft, and there's just something very uncaring about it, which is great. She's just totally in her own being, just like that girl was dancing around, and she was in her own world. I think watching girls in their own world is a beautiful thing.
お出かけ先でやっぱり喫茶店に入って飲むのも好きなんですよね。
So I was like, I like drinking coffee, right? And then she says, nah. And like that's a very feminine thing. Girls in Japan always add that on.
いろいろ私行けますけれども。
I go to different coffee shops, right? It's hilarious. Like what hilarious. It's just so mundane, but so, it's just the way girls are, okay?
私、椿やコーヒーがすごく好きなんです。
And this is hilarious. See, now she's starting to show her real self. See that smile? See how she's looking directly at you? So she's giving you a message. Until now, she's just kind of talking about stuff. But now she's like showing her true self. Okay? This is the subtle thing of a woman. Look at that look on her face. She's telling you something important right now. She likes Tsubakiya coffee the best. Okay, now interesting. Now, why is that? Why would she be so all of a sudden animated? She's not, by the way, this is not a marketing thing. The West is very sophisticated with marketing. Japan, it's not. She's just talking shit right now. She's not, this is, I mean, Tsubakiya Coffee, if they knew about this, they would probably pay her a ton of money to say this. But why this is so great is because she's just talking shit. Because basically she becomes so attractive on TV that she was a weather reporter. But she just talks to herself. And she became so many people started watching the weather report. People watch old weather reports, 6-month-old weather reports with her. The people don't give a shit about the weather. They're just watching her. And so they just started letting her talk more. And so she's just talking here. She's not marking anything. None at all.
ですよ。あそこすごく素敵じゃないですか？私本当に好きな場所で、もちろんコーヒー飲むのも好きなんですけど、雰囲気がいいですよね。なんて言ったってお店の人がメイド服なんですよ。
Okay. the staff wear French maid costumes. Now, this is such a feminine thing to do, to want to do, to wear like a frilly, girly Japanese feminine girls. They really enjoy this shit. You know what I mean? Like, I think as a guy, it's very funny that girls are so different than us. But I think part of just being a man and really enjoying life is noticing that men and women are just, like, women are just, they're into their shit. It's so interesting. And it's just like, as a man, I mean, again, you don't want to be enslaved by this. But I guess it's kind of like, you know, when you watch a movie and you cry because it's so fucking awesome, or like you're watching a story, it touches you, or you're listening to, you know, a very inspiring thing or something. I think that's the same feeling I have when I look at feminine women. I'm just like, whoa, that's so cool. I don't make any long-term decisions on it. I'm not saying she's a star and she's my hero. No, I just think it's fucking awesome. Like, I just think it's so cool that there's feminine fucking girls in the world. You know what I mean? Fucking awesome. It makes me more myself when I feel there's these beings out there, when I see these beings, right? So anyway, so back to this girl. You can just see how feminine. Look how she's holding her mouth. Look at her clothes. She's got different clothes on. Look at the way she's holding her hands. She's making sure, she's kind of saying, she's showing that clothing, right? So again, it's feminine. See, her hands are not really rigid like a white girl would be, like a Western girl. It's very soft. They're just kind of like crooked. She's just kind of like, and she's not touching her boobs, right? She's not, nothing crude here. She's totally being herself. The most dangerous thing is a natural woman. But it's also the most beautiful thing. And it doesn't have to be dangerous. If you appreciate it and are around it, you won't be so dumb. Like, you'll appreciate it more, but you won't make stupid decisions based on it. And also, the girls will appreciate you more. They don't really want a guy who's going to be totally entranced with everything they do. You got to be a tough guy. Like, my appreciation is inside myself. I never told that girl when she was dancing how I felt. In fact, I didn't know how I felt about her singing that song and dancing until like fucking 15, 20 years later. I knew that it gutted me at the moment. But it was when I tried to write poetry, I suddenly realized, all of a sudden I understood what happened that day. And what femininity was, and what she was, and how I felt. And it all came to me years later. But she never knew. If I saw her again, I would probably tell her, like, how devastatingly soft and light and ethereal she is as a being. You know, because I'm not trying to seduce her anymore. I would want her to know that she was the ultimate. Yukari was really the flower of flowers, really. I met a lot of flowers, but she was really one of the most elegant, beautiful, feminine flowers of all time that I ever met. And I met a lot of beautiful girls, but she just had that extra something that just gutted me. And that part of it was I could compare her to other girls who were trying to be feminine. Not all Japanese girls are feminine. A lot of them are not. It's kind of a natural thing too. Depends on how they're raised and all that, right? But we'll zip through this because we got to end this. I'm driving down to Southern California here pretty soon. See that laugh? See how she covers her face? See how cute that is? So feminine. Her little movements, she covers her face. She didn't even just cover her mouth. So usually Japanese girls will cover their mouth when they're being kind of fake. She's covering her face because she's embarrassed about how much she likes to wear a maid outfit, how much she likes to look at girls in maid outfits, right? She just really blossoms in her own femininity. And this is devastating. Now, you could say that a bunch of simps watch this. Any feminine girl that is displayed to many people is just going to roll through their fucking hearts. So get used to it, you know. It doesn't mean it's bad. You just, again, you don't want it to control your life. But what she's doing here, I think, is she's actually covering her whole face here, which is very rare. She's actually saying, "Oh my God, I'm embarrassed. Like I'm embarrassed that I'm telling them that I like this, you know." And you could ruin the show by saying mean things on the comments right now. But instead, the Japanese people have class and they let her do this. And I think in some ways, everybody's kind of in awe of this kind of thing. When a girl really lets loose and she is feminine in her youth, the femininity disappears after a certain age. Femininity has something to do with estrogen too. Estrogen peaks. All right? It's not just DNA. It's not just culture. It's not just experience. It's also a period of time. Because this girl, in 20 years, she won't be as feminine as she is now. It's a season. It's a blooming. She's at the peak. She's close to her peak right now.
もうそこをちょっとやっぱり外せないですよね。レトロな感じがね伝わってきて、なんだかこうタイムスリップした気持ちになれるので、私は。
So when she says like, you know, kind of like going back in time, it's like that's when you're touching on the timeless, ethereal aspects of women and their fantasies and their enjoyment, right? It's like not realistic like a guy. It's not like, oh my God, it's this time of day and she's wearing this thing. It's like how it makes her feel. It makes her feel lovely, right? And you can see she's totally sincere. That's why she's so fucking popular, right? Now, I watch her channel just because I want to keep my Japanese up. So I watch like TV shows like Goksen, and I'm always looking for something that's interesting on TV to watch. I started watching, just a kind of a side note, I started watching her, and I was watching her in Japanese, and there was like English titles, you know, like on the title, the video title. But where the funny thing was, is that I didn't even know it was English because I have a setting on my Google Chrome that automatically translates titles sometimes. So I thought I had the setting on. So I didn't know that she had English fans. I thought it was just Japanese. And then now I realize, like you can see here, they put the English subtitles because now she's crossed over. One of her videos got so popular that now she's going to have tons of people all over the world. But don't be like that. You can watch her, you can learn Japanese from her, but don't be overly fascinated with her. I'm just teaching you about femininity in general. Don't personalize it only to her. Enjoy it. Let it touch your heart. Let it burn through your heart like a fucking lava. But at the same time, realize that what I'm kind of showing you is that there is this lovely aspect to life which you don't even know about, which we're going to explore when we go overseas. It doesn't mean that Asian girls are all like this or the girls in Thailand. We're going to look for it, right? We're going to look for pockets where this still exists. And it's beautiful. It is beautiful, right?
それはよく言ってました。ちなみに私以前学生
And here's even funnier. She tried to get a job. Okay. So here's like, I'll go ahead and end on this video, I think. But this is kind of cute. They're just taking little moments as she did. And I kind of want to show you the kind of Japanese version of femininity. Okay. So again, look at her hair. See how it's kind of resting on her shoulders? It's so soft. And see how her bangs are just kind of like, they're just kind of like not perfect. They're just kind of like to the side. Again, the makeup, you know, she obviously likes this necklace. And she doesn't have like the boob job anymore. She didn't do a boob job. She's just being herself, right? It's the best, right?
けど、山ポーズって皆さんご存知ですか？山ポーズ。
Yeah, right there. That's like a typical thing a Japanese girl do. They have all these poses, like, you know, when you were little and girls had these jumping rope games and they would sing and dance to them. Japanese girls, even when they're older, like say in their 20s, they still have this stuff. And it's so fucking cute. Never make fun of them. Just watch them. You can tease them about it, but don't make fun of them. You know, you'll ruin it. You don't want to fucking either simp out or point it out too much. Let them, it's almost like having watching wild animals or something, like fish. My parents fish. the best way to watch them is don't stand up because the fish will all hide. Whereas if you just kind of lay down on the side, you just kind of don't move. She's got this koi pond. And then you can watch the fish just being themselves, right? That's kind of the attitude I take with femininity. I just kind of watch it and let my emotions flow. Because my emotions fucking flow with this kind of thing. To me, it's so beautiful. It's so lovely. It's such a nice break from my brain and from society and crime and politics and everything, you know.
頑張りますので応援してください。頑張ってください。応援しております。
That's another thing. 頑張ってください. It's like they always do that. See that look on her face? Okay, they're never, the feminine is never the over. It's always a little bit held back. Right? It's a little bit held back.
頑張ってください。エールを精一杯送ります。頑張ってください。
That's the way a girl will kind of, if you want to do something, like say you're taking a test or something, she'll be like, 頑張ってください, you know. And then she holds her fists up. She's serious, you know. It's like, really do well in this, you know.
皆さんありがとうございます。オリオンさん。
Okay, so now here she's standing in the way of the sign, right? So she's kind of like, instead of making, like what a Western girl might do is like, say, oh, what's wrong with this software or whatever, you know, like make some, tell somebody what to do or whatever. She just kind of giggles and like realizes she's in the way. She kind of moves back, right? And then you look at her clothes, they're very conservative, soft colors. The colors of the skirt match her lips, right? Subtle things, right?
注目。あ、聞いちゃった。カペラですって。あるで。
See how she moves kind of soft. She kind of like, you'll see this when you watch Japanese girls move. They, like her finger's not, like when a Western girl points, it's like this direct, it's almost like a metal beam or something. It's like a man would do. A Japanese girl, she's always doing everything. This is why I say it's so hopeless, is because she's doing a million feminine things. She's got feminine nails. She's standing feminine. She's talking feminine. She's holding her mouth. She's holding in. Feminine is always kind of a little bit holding back, right? And then when you have sex with them, when they let loose, that discrepancy is really what drives you crazy, because you realize they are letting themselves go, right? They're not being their normal self. They're letting you into a room that other men are not privy to. That's a key thing with a woman. A woman is like a house with 100 doors in a row. And depending on your level of access, she's going to show you one thing in the room. You're going to see one door, you'll see one thing, the next door. That's femininity. A Western woman, she tends to just, wants to get your attention, she'll just show you door 57, right? The Japanese girls, they're always on that subtle scale, right? Okay.
でバランスバル。私がやらない方がいいかなこれ。
See how she kind of lunged like cute, right? She's trying to get all the way over there. And then she like notices that she's like, her movements are messing the screen up. So she kind of like makes fun of herself. And this is another thing that girls do. Like guys don't like to be made fun of. They don't like to be wrong. Women, part of the reason why they're so good at languages is because they're okay with it. They're like, oh, I'm not doing it good. I'm not good. Oh, I should change. You know, that's the natural femininity. And that's what you don't see in the West anymore. It's always like, they're always right, you know. Whereas like feminine nature, this is the good side of feminine nature, is that they can just laugh at themselves all the time. Like they can be wrong like all the time. And you look at them and you're like, I love you like 100 times more. Because she doesn't care. She doesn't care. Her ego's not tied to it. You know what I mean? And you're like, God, that's so fucking feminine.
きっと隠れますね。はい、撫でたくなりますね。よしよし。
Now, all these things she's doing is just so Japanese. Like, I want you to know that there's a million Japanese girls like this. like most of my girlfriends, something like this. This is the way they act. Like literally, they'll come up to the TV and start pretending like they're petting the dog. They're going to fucking do shit like this all the time. This is not she's not putting on some special thing. Why this girl next door is so popular and why Japanese girls in general are so attractive is because of the just the way they act, all this shit together. And again, it's not easy. Like Western girls, when they go to Japan, a lot of Western girls, they're devastated when they get to Japan because a lot of Western girls, they might have bigger breasts. So they're going to think that they are going to get all the guys. But this Japanese feminine behavior, and when I say behavior, I mean clothing, voice tonality, fingernails, hair, lips, movement of mouth, holding of shoulders, placement of feet, cleanliness, giggle, tonality, sense of like not, they really are trained by Japanese society. Japanese men, you can say what you like, but they train them very, very well to be the most attractive women in the world. That's why I like Japanese women the best. It's because of this stuff I'm talking about. It's not just beauty. It's not, of course they're thin, but this stuff is way more powerful for me. I will take an average girl who acts like this and it's not just acting like this is what Western girls don't get. So what happens? Okay, so back to the West. Western girls that come to Japan, they think, well, they got bigger boobs. I'm going to get some action. And then what they'll do is, you'll see this all the time. They'll be like, oh, I need a Japanese girlfriend. Like a lot of guys like these girls. Well, that's interesting. Because when they first get there, if they don't know much about Japan, they're totally clueless. And then they see like, oh my God, these girls, they got something, you know. And so they start making Japanese girlfriends. And they're like, they'll kind of take them to a party and say, I got this girlfriend. Not sex, just like a friend. And they'll be kind of like, but they take, this is my opinion, they get these girlfriends as friends because they kind of think they're above them. They're showing them off, like, I'm culturally open, this and that. But what happens is these girls, their femininity is so powerful that at any party, it makes the girl look like you can just take this girl into a group of Western girls who just got to Japan. And then she's the only girl who was born in Japan who takes to this stuff. Not every Japanese girl, but let's say one like this. And again, they're not a shortage of these girls. They're around. And the Western girls won't even understand what her power is. But she'll come into a group and every fucking guy will want to give them a house. Like and marry her. And these other girls could be way prettier. Like actually. And the Western girls, it takes them time. And what happens is with Western girls in Japan, and I know a lot of girls are listening now to the channel, and if you did live in Japan, you know exactly what I'm talking about. A lot of girls get Western girls, extremely depressed, especially the intelligent ones who can kind of see it. They realize it's hopeless. Like they can never catch up to the femininity of the Japanese girl. And they give up. And there's a lot of girls who kind of become shut-ins in Japan. Like they really, I know one girl, she dresses like a homeless person. She's a white chick from Canada. And she's been there for like 30 years. And I think it was just so devastating to know that she's like a log. Like she has this femininity, this feminine power is essentially the essence of them, of women. Now, some women have a masculine power, and there are scientists. I'm not saying that I very much respect, a woman who has the natural masculine, like a real Rain Man type of chick who's very good at science. I can totally appreciate her for what she is. And in history, there's always been these women. I'm not saying there's only one type of woman in the entire world, but I'm saying that it is very powerful. And for the women that go to Japan and see this, it has a huge effect on them. And the ones who thought they were kind of cute and they kind of did their little cutesy things, they realized that they're like, in comparison, they're like a clown, basically. And that there's no hope of them ever catching up. And I think it really affects them. It really, really affects them. And there's other girls who don't figure it out very quickly. And they kind of, when they do figure it out, that's when they leave Japan. So maybe like 1 year in Japan, they'll teach English for 1 year. And then all of a sudden they'll realize like, every Japanese girl will tell me I'm beautiful. Every Japanese guy will tell me I'm beautiful. But no one calls me. And everybody calls, Miyuki-chan. And Miyuki-chan is not even cute. You know what I mean? Like some girl who works, say, as a secretary at the English school. They're like, every guy wants Miyuki-chan. And she's not even hot. Like, I'm way hotter. Like, literally, the girl could be way hotter, DNA-wise. But no guys want her. And the girls realize, I don't think those girls, let's say the less intelligent women, they don't realize their part in it. But they realize that they're not wanted by men. And so some of them, they go two ways. One, they leave Japan. And sometimes they come to me for help. Because I actually advise a lot of women. And I always tell them the same thing. I say, look, this is exactly what I tell them. I say, look, you're absolutely right, is that you are not attractive as a female in Japan. However, Japanese girls are attractive, okay, very attractive. And you are a female. Females have a very flexible sexuality. So I say, look, why don't you just try something totally new and see if you can get in a relationship with a feminine Japanese girl and you be the masculine and they be the feminine. And I've told girls this advice, and there's two girls who, they were blown away because they were not lesbian at all. But they thank me now, years later, because they're like, because they wanted to enjoy life, right? They wanted to somehow find a balance of male and femininity, and they found that was kind of the perfect thing for them. So there's ways to kind of be happy regardless. I'm not saying you're going to be unhappy. Like, find a way to be happy in life. That's my basic philosophy. But be honest about the way things are. Don't kid yourself. Don't be a fool. Okay, so let's see here. This one. So here, I'll just end on this here.
この辺りにこうひょこひょこって出てきて、
Hyoko. Like, she's always using like she's using words twice and like sound words. And then she's like,
って
wooって。
叫んでそうじゃないですか、お月様に向かって。ワンワンって。
I just want to end on that because that literally is it right there. They can be in the middle of a conversation in a business. This girl could be a businesswoman and she can just talk like this. And it's her secret power. Like, every guy in the room is just like, oh my God. So for girls listening to this, or if you do send this to a woman, like, I want you to know that the whole thing, what I'm saying here, is not that there's no hope. I want you to see what's happened to you, what happens in the West, and realize that it isn't going to change. Like, culture is not going to change because people just don't change very quickly. So, for example, let me give you one example. So, Israel is a country built in the desert. Everything in Israel is built around saving water because there's not much water. And everything, the way people act, the way people think, the industry is built around, we don't have much water, we got to conserve water. So because of that, they don't really have a problem. Whereas in other countries where they suddenly have a drought, it's very difficult because in a country where you had water before, and then all of a sudden you have to change human behavior, it's like it never really changes. I don't know if there's a window, of opportunity. Now, I'm not saying that there's not individuals who can change. Like, there's people who learn English totally fluently as an adult, and you never even can tell they're not native speakers, but I'm going to say they're fucking 1 in 10,000. So you might be able to be, as a feminine woman listening, or as a woman who cares, okay, about the stuff I talk about, you might be that person who can actually somehow change. But society as a whole, people just don't have that flexibility. You can't get people suddenly in China right now, they have water shortages. They're trying to get them to conserve, but because they were raised in a country where there was a lot of water and now there suddenly isn't, it's like impossible. Like the businesses are not set up for it. So they have this huge water problem. Whereas in Israel, it's different because it was built into the system. So femininity might come back in the West, maybe in another 500 years. There could be a revival, but it's certainly not going to be in our lifetime. Just because people don't change. They can't change. The mass population cannot change. Unique, talented individuals that are intelligent can change, right? Can totally change. When I'm talking changing, I'm not talking a small change. I'm talking about a total change of the way you act, dress, laugh, think, everything in your life. Stand, walk, interact with people, your personality, everything. Like a total transformation to a feminine being. That is really difficult to do as an adult. So don't expect, in fact, it will not happen in the West. Okay, it cannot happen. So if you do like what I'm talking about, like for example, we're going to do a Thailand summit in early March, probably sometime around the 10th or 12th or something like that. And it'll be a good opportunity to start to, if we have time, we can go into the countryside. We can look at different aspects and we can talk about this. We can go to China, to where the Japantown is, and we can look at people. We can analyze, because being Japanese American is not what I'm talking about. Again, it's an immersion. It's an immersion from birth. As soon as you're like, I'm not Finnish, okay, even though I'm Finnish, 100% Finnish blood, I'm not Finnish. I can't be. Even though, my parents speak a lot of Finnish, I was raised around a lot of Finnish people. I just wasn't raised in Finland. I'm too outspoken. I'm too salesy, my personality. I'm just not. Finnish people were fascinated by me because I do have parts of myself is totally Finnish, but other parts are just totally American. And I can't really help that because I was raised in this other environment. So I don't kid myself that I'm Finnish. You know what I mean? Like I wasn't immersed in it. And so don't kid yourself, girls and guys. Femininity is beautiful. It's real. Again, you don't want to throw yourself down on the ground like, oh my God, femininity, I'm giving everything to it. But at the same time, man, as a man, there's few things more beautiful in the world than femininity. It's really a lovely thing. And I learned this partly from that girl, but also from all the other girls. Because I dated so many women that I knew the difference. And I'm so sad when I see guys here, they think they like big butts. They think they like all these things, but all it is compromise. Men in the West, even you don't know what you really like. It's only because you don't have any options is that you think American girls are still sexy. If you had options, I could tell you there's almost a 0% chance you'd find girls attractive here. It's because you don't have any options. Like men in prison, what do? There's a thing called gay for the states because that's all they have. And it's the same thing in America. It's clown for the state because all you have is a clown. So because your sex drive is so high, you convince yourself that you're attracted to the women here. But when you live abroad, especially for decades, and you're face-to-face confronted with femininity, I believe that you will, A, understand it, B, your life will be enlarged. Your masculinity will be enhanced because when you appreciate the feminine, it will teach you what masculinity is. That's partly why guys have fake masculinity in America. Ford trucks with big lettering on the front. They carry a gun. They think that's masculine. guys take story, they think that's masculine. Masculine is none of those things. Masculinity, just like femininity, is a very complex thing. Masculinity is also a very complex, not clownish thing. And I found my masculinity by being in cultures where I was immersed and surrounded by feminine women, and I was able to understand the subtleties of being a man too. Because what is a man? We can talk about that in another episode. That's actually a great topic. Anyway, I'm going to end this one here, and I want to say I really appreciate you listening, because this to me is one of the most, it's just one of the most close to my heart episodes. And I just want to say announcements is that we'll have the Thailand Summit coming up, 2023, sometime around March 12th, that kind of time zone. So if you want to buy a ticket now, I don't have the dates, but if you come as long as you can. So, come with that somewhere in the middle of the time or whatever, And also, we have a lot of people interested in the houses. And we found great houses that are super cheap. So we might even have two. We might have a beach house and a house in the city. So we can have like motorcycles and surfboards and like a big barbecue at the beach house. Like, get this. I found a fucking beach house, or my friend Adam found a beach house for $500 a month. 3 bathrooms, 2 stories, in one of the most beautiful places in the fucking world. Insane. We can all share. So it's not like a lot of money. Like, people were like afraid that there was, I want this thing to be blockbuster. I think us getting together is a beautiful thing. I think that men helping each other is fucking awesome. I think the whole path that everybody's on here is great. And I want to get you motivation to go back and listen to that episode about the remote jobs that we made at the Texas Summit, because you don't have to be stuck in one place. You can be a free man for the rest of your life, and you can enjoy all these things I'm talking about here. You don't have to just be listening. You can be me. We are all Ronin. I want you to surpass me. That's my ultimate goal. All right, guys. Thanks for listening.